I woke up on a crisp Sunday morning, the kind of day when everything feels lighter and promising, at least it used to. Rolling over, I caught sight of my wife, Emma. 5 years of marriage, and she still had this serene glow when she slept. When her eyes fluttered open, she pulled me close, kissing me softly. "Not this morning, Logan," she teased, her voice warm. "You wore me out last night. Can you blame me?" "I'm just trying to get us that baby," I said, smirking. It was half a joke, half the truth. She wrapped her arms around me, whispering, "We'll get there. Just be patient." Our morning flowed as usual, casual chatter and plans for the day. Emma brought up work again, her obsession with landing that regional sales manager promotion. I played along, though I'd heard the same speech 100 times. Her ambition wasn't the problem. Until now, I'd admired it. But something in me started to itch. She hopped into the shower, and I decided to be a good husband and run out for her favorite overpriced latte. Halfway out the door, I realized I'd left my car keys on the counter. Emma carried a spare in her purse, so I figured I'd grab it from there. What's hers is ours, right? That's when I found it, the small zipped compartment inside her purse. Hidden, but not well enough. Inside, a pack of birth control pills stared back at me like a bad punchline to a cruel joke. For a moment, I couldn't move. My stomach twisted as I turned the pack over. The prescription date was recent, just a few weeks old. And a third of the pills were gone. She was supposed to have stopped taking these months ago. She'd promised. By the time I left the house with her coffee, my mind was racing. Was she just not ready for kids? Did she change her mind and not tell me? It made no sense. She acted like she wanted this as much as I did. I was sure she wasn't cheating. Or was I? We spent nearly all our free time together, and her best friend Rachel was married to my best friend Mike. It didn't add up. Unless... No. I pushed the thought aside. But a small voice in the back of my mind whispered, "You don't know as much as you think you do." Later that day, Emma and I were heading to Mike and Rachel's for dinner. I must have been quieter than usual because she nudged me as we got into the car. "What's up with you today? You've been weird since this morning." "Just tired, I guess," I said, shrugging it off. No way I was dropping this bomb in the middle of a car ride. Dinner passed in a blur. I was barely present, picking at my food and nodding in the right places. Afterward, Mike pulled me into his workshop, sensing something was off. "All right, Logan. Spill. What's eating at you?" I debated for a second before telling him everything. The pills, the timeline, the broken promise. His expression hardened as he leaned back against the workbench. "Man, you gotta find out what's really going on," he said. "Hire a PI if you have to." "Emma's not cheating," I said automatically, my voice sharp. "There's no way." "Then prove it," he shot back. "If you're so sure, a PI will clear things up. Or do you not want to know?" The challenge hit me like a slap. He wasn't wrong. If I didn't do something, this uncertainty was going to eat me alive. The next morning, I hired a private investigator our company used for corporate security issues. Discreet, reliable, and most importantly, thorough. The PI wasn't optimistic. "I don't think it's an affair," he said after I told him the basics. "But I'll look into it. People can surprise you." And surprise me, she did. 3 weeks. That's how long it took for the PI to deliver his findings. 3 agonizing weeks of pretending everything was fine while Emma walked around as if nothing had changed. To her, nothing had. To me, every conversation, every glance felt like a game of Russian roulette. I started acting off, pulling back physically and emotionally. Emma noticed, of course. By the second week, she confronted me. "Logan, what is going on with you?" she asked one night. We were in the living room, and I was nursing a whiskey instead of her. "Nothing," I said, too quickly. My tone betrayed me. "Don't give me that," she snapped. "You've been distant, moody, and, what's this now? Drinking instead of talking to me? Just tell me what's wrong." The fight that followed was our first big one in years. I accused her of pulling away first, and she threw my distance back in my face. It was ugly, loud, and unresolved. "You're going to drive me away if you don't stop," she yelled before storming into the bedroom. I didn't follow. Instead, I sat on the couch, drained but resolute. If she was hiding something, I would know soon enough. The morning of her 30th birthday, the PI handed me a folder. It was thick. That's never a good sign. Before you look, just know this is going to hurt, he said, sliding it across the table. He hesitated, then added, but you need to listen to the audio. Watch the video. The context matters. Context. I asked, my voice already tight. You'll understand when you see it. I drove to Mike's immediately. I needed a drink, something strong, and I needed backup. Mike took one look at my face as I walked into his garage and poured me a double. Not good, huh? Worse, I said, sliding the folder toward him. Knock yourself out. As he flipped through the photos, his expression darkened. Emma, smiling too brightly at her boss, Thomas, a middle-aged smug-looking guy I'd met at company events. They weren't just friendly. The pictures showed Emma entering hotels during lunch breaks, her car parked in places it shouldn't have been during work meetings. Then came the video. I pressed play on the laptop, my stomach already in knots. At first, it was just voices. Emma's voice, calm and businesslike. This is the last time, she said. We agreed on that. Come on, Emma, Thomas replied, his tone dripping with arrogance. If you want that promotion, you know what you have to do. The video transitioned to a hotel room. Emma was there, and so was Thomas. The rest, well, let's just say they weren't talking about sales targets. Mike slammed the laptop shut after about 30 seconds. Jesus Christ, Logan. I couldn't speak. My hands were shaking, and not from sadness. I was beyond that. This wasn't a wife falling out of love. This wasn't someone chasing passion or connection. This was cold, calculated betrayal. She'd traded our marriage for a corner office. She sold herself and us for a promotion, I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. Mike nodded, his jaw tight. What now? I'm giving her the birthday party she'll never forget. I spent the rest of the week pulling together a plan. If Emma wanted to climb the corporate ladder at any cost, I was going to show her exactly what that cost was. Publicly. Mike and his wife, Rachel, were eager to help. Rachel had no idea about Emma's betrayal. Mike just told her we were throwing a halfway to 50 surprise party for her best friend. Rachel ate it up, suggesting all kinds of corny themes, including over-the-hill light and a fake retirement gag. I let her run with it. Rachel organized the guest list, which included Emma's colleagues, her parents, and of course, Thomas and his wife Linda. I personally invited Thomas, making sure to emphasize how much it would mean for Emma to have her boss there. Bring your wife too, I added, as sweetly as I could manage. He didn't suspect a thing. Why would he? I was just a doting husband celebrating his wife's big day. Meanwhile, Mike and I prepped for the main event. I met with a tech-savvy friend who was more than happy to help turn the PI's evidence into a multimedia masterpiece. The video, the audio, the incriminating photos, it was all being edited into a chronological slideshow. The piece de resistance was Thomas's sleazy dialogue synced perfectly with the footage. I wasn't just planning to expose them, I was going to make them the stars of the most awkward, humiliating birthday party in history. By Sunday morning, everything was ready. Emma had no idea what was coming. She thought Rachel was taking her shopping for drapes. Meanwhile, I turned our house into party central. Streamers, balloons, a custom cake with 30 and thriving, written in icing, the works. Guests began arriving around 2:30 p.m., and by 3 o'clock, the place was packed. Emma walked in at 3:10 to a chorus of surprise. Her face lit up, first with genuine joy, then with something darker as she scanned the room. I saw at the moment her eyes landed on Thomas. Her smile faltered, and her hand twitched nervously at her side. "Logan, you didn't," she gasped, throwing her arms around me. "Of course I did," I said, holding her tight. She couldn't see my face, but Mike later told me the smile I gave her was chilling. She was distracted for the first hour, making small talk but constantly glancing around the room. I kept the drinks flowing, making sure everyone was well fed and well lubricated for what was coming next. Around 5 p.m., I clinked my glass to get everyone's attention. "Thanks for coming, everyone. As you know, Emma's turning 30, and we're so proud of her, both as a wife and as a career woman. So, I thought it'd be fun to look back on some of her biggest accomplishments. I gestured to the TV as the slideshow began. The first photos were innocent enough. Baby Emma in a onesie, Emma in middle school with braces, our wedding photo. She laughed and blushed, playing along as I made little jokes. The crowd was eating it up. Then came the work photos. Emma at her desk, smiling with her colleagues. A picture of her and Thomas at a company event. I glanced at her and saw the color drain from her face. Now, Emma's always been ambitious, I said, the sarcasm starting to creep in. When she sets her sights on something, she'll do whatever it takes to get it. The next image was a still frame from the hotel footage, Emma and Thomas in bed, unmistakably compromising. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Emma shot out of her seat, her face a mix of shock and fury. "Logan, stop this," she screamed. "Oh, we're just getting started," I said, pressing play. The video began to roll, the audio loud and clear for everyone to hear. Thomas's voice rang out. "Come on, Emma. If you want that promotion, get those legs higher." The room erupted. Thomas's wife, Linda, turned to him, her face twisted in rage. Guests started whispering, and some were already heading for the door. Emma lunged at me, but Mike stepped in, holding her back. "Not a good look, Emma," he said with a smirk. Meanwhile, Linda was on a warpath. She slapped Thomas so hard his glasses flew off, then grabbed a drink off the table and poured it over his head. "You disgusting, lying bastard," she shrieked. As the chaos unfolded, a server I'd hired, who also happened to be a process server, approached Emma and Thomas, handing each of them an envelope. "You've been served," he said, before walking away with the nonchalance of someone delivering pizza. The room was a war zone. Emma collapsed into a chair, her face buried in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. Meanwhile, Linda was still on a tear, screaming at Thomas about their marriage, his lies, and every pent-up grievance she'd ever had. Guests were either frozen in awkward silence or filing out as quickly as they could, avoiding eye contact like they'd accidentally walked into a live crime scene. Thomas tried to save face, standing up and brushing the drink off his shirt. "This is ridiculous," he barked, his voice shaky. "Logan, you're out of line." "Out of line," I said, stepping forward. "No, Thomas. Sleeping with my wife to dangle a promotion over her head? That's out of line. And trust me, this isn't over." "Let's go," Linda snarled, grabbing him by the arm. As she dragged him toward the door, she turned back to Emma. "Oh, and happy birthday, you cheap whore." Emma flinched, her sobs breaking into hiccups. Linda's parting shot was the last straw. Emma couldn't even lift her head. By the time the dust settled and the guests had cleared out, the house was eerily quiet. Emma was still sitting on the couch, clutching the divorce papers she'd been served during the spectacle. Her eyes were bloodshot, her makeup streaked with tears. "You've ruined me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "No," I said, pouring myself another drink. "You ruined you." I just pulled back the curtain. "Logan, I was going to stop. I swear. It was only—" "Save it," I snapped. "I don't care why you did it. You lied to me. You betrayed me. And for what? A corner office? A bigger paycheck? Was it worth it?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stared at the divorce papers like they were a death sentence. "Logan, please," she begged. "Don't do this. We can fix this." I let out a bitter laugh. "Fix this? There's no fixing this, Emma. You killed our marriage the moment you decided a promotion was worth more than your integrity, or your husband." The next day, the consequences of her actions hit Emma like a freight train. News of the party had spread like wildfire through her social circle and her workplace. By Monday afternoon, she was on unpaid leave, pending an internal investigation. Her boss, Thomas, wasn't so lucky. He was fired on the spot. Emma called me from work, hysterical. "They're making me the scapegoat," she wailed. "Thomas is telling them I seduced him to get the promotion." I didn't feel the least bit sorry for her. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you spread your legs for him," I said coldly. "Oh, and good luck with that internal investigation. I left all the evidence with HR." "Logan, you're destroying me," she screamed. "No, Emma," I said, my voice calm and steady. "You destroyed yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows it." I wasn't done yet. The PI had uncovered more than just Emma's betrayal. He'd also dug into Thomas's past. Turns out, Emma wasn't the first woman he'd coerced into bed for career advancement. I took the evidence straight to an employment lawyer, who assured me we had a solid case for a lawsuit. By the end of the week, Thomas was facing not only the loss of his job but also a sexual harassment lawsuit from both Emma and another former employee. His reputation was in tatters, and his wife, Linda, had already filed for divorce. A week later, Emma showed up at the house. She looked like a ghost of herself, pale, exhausted, and broken. She handed me a stack of signed papers without a word. As I flipped through them to confirm her signature, she spoke. "I loved you, Logan. I still do. I'll never forgive myself for what I've done." I looked up at her, my expression unreadable. "I loved you too, Emma. But the woman I loved is gone. And what's left? That's someone I'll never trust again." She nodded, tears streaming silently down her face. "Goodbye, Logan. Goodbye, Emma." And just like that, she walked out of my life. The divorce was finalized within a month. I took the time off my boss had offered and spent it in Mexico, getting my head straight. When I came back, I was ready to rebuild, without Emma and without the bitterness. As for Emma, the last I heard, she'd moved back in with her parents, trying to piece her life together. And Thomas? Let's just say he learned the hard way that some promotions come with a hefty price tag.